Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to What If Tanjiro Had the Sharingan. Now, today's video, I do know one thing about it. It has been beat to the dearth 100 times. I mean, so many different people have made this video, but I'm here to tell you guys one thing. And that's that you're still gonna watch the video regardless. I mean, why else would you have clicked on it? But before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to sit here and sell out for a moment and ask for you guys to like the video, because seriously, your boy needs to eat, okay? But other than that, turn on post notifications so you guys are informed of part 2, and seriously, you have to set notifications to all, or else you're not gonna be notified when it drops. So other than that, ladies and gentlemen, just go grab a snack or something and enjoy.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
We start our story with Tanjiro making his way down the mountain. His family had pretty much just done the stereotypical anime stuff and pretty much prepared their own deathbeds. Tanjiro makes his way down. The very next day, Tanjiro makes his way back up and boom! He realizes his entire family got massacred. I mean, it's bad. But anyways, Naruto gains one thing out of it. And honestly, I have a question for you guys. Would you sacrifice your entire family to get the Sharingan or not? Because think about it. Not only do you get the Sharingan, but if you work hard enough, you can get them on. Oh wait, you're gonna go blind. Okay, let's say we take off that restriction. Would you do it? Answer down below in the comments. You gotta let me know ASAP. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. Literally, as soon as I finished asking you guys that question, my dad ended up calling me, asking me to book him a ticket for Disneyland. My family's on a trip right now, but that's not important. Point is, ladies and gentlemen, Tanjiro would pretty much discover one thing about himself, and that would be that he has access to a newly found vision. Now, all of his vision would be red, and Tanjiro can see up to the most minuscule little details on his family's faces, which are like bleeding and like dead and like rotting away. So it's not exactly the best moment for him to unlock his Sharingan, but if Sasuke was able to unlock his Sharingan in the moment that his family was massacred, then I see no real reason why Tanjiro wouldn't be able to unlock it now. Now, a common misconception that people have about that is that Sasuke unlocks it during Haku. No, he just reawakens it then. He really unlocks it during the battle with, not the battle, but when the massacre happened. That's really when Sasuke ended up unlocking it. It was just locked away for a very, 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 very long time. Continuing on forward with the story, what would pretty much end up going down after this is that Tanjiro would be desperate, and he realizes that one member of his family is actually still alive. This member would actually be Nezuko. Now, Tanjiro, realizing that Nezuko's still alive, would in a hurry grab her and make his way down the mountain just like in canon. Now, he would still slip, and he and Nezuko would get into a tussle, and Nezuko's tears would begin falling on his face. Suddenly, in a blinding light, like freaking Giyu would come in out of nowhere and be about to straight decapitate her head from her body. But it's at this moment that Tanjiro would flip the script, and using his active Sharingan would see this all happen. Now, his body's unable to react because he's not fast enough, but he gets on top of Nezuko and immediately protects her, just like in canon, with more precision this time. And this time he's actually able to cover her and not let Giyu grab her from him, you know what I mean? So when Giyu realizes that this kid was able to see him coming, he's shocked. And Tanjiro from here would proceed to just look over towards Giyu, and Nezuko would get behind him and would be like about to attack Tanjiro, but she calms down. And Giyu, realizing this, would question what in the world these two kids are. He would tell Tanjiro, "Get away! Kid, do you have any idea what that thing behind you is? It's a demon. Now let me finish it." Thinking to himself that if he had gone here just a second sooner, maybe things could have gone differently. But Tanjiro would immediately nod his head no, saying that there's no way he's gonna let his sister die, and that he's not gonna be taking her away from him. And Giyu would look down as he sighs and would pretty much blitz at Tanjiro. Tanjiro reading his movements, and Giyu, realizing this, would ask Tanjiro for his name and all that stuff, and mid-conversation, Tanjiro would then end up telling Giyu that you know, he just wants to save his sister, you know, please don't kill her, she's all I have left. And Giyu would look at him and say that he can't protect her. What is he gonna do when she tries to attack him? Or if another demon tries to attack him? And he's testing Tanjiro just like in the original. Tanjiro runs behind the trees and he would throw the axe just like in canon, shocking Giyu and leading Giyu to decide that Tanjiro might just be worthy of the training of Kurodaki, right? I think that's his name, the old guy with the mask, right? So yeah, he pretty much ends up sending Tanjiro there with Nezuko, and Tanjiro would make his way up the mountain, finding himself a little bamboo basket to throw Nezuko inside of, and ultimately once he would end up meeting the old man, beforehand, we would end up having a really strange demon encounter, because this time around, Tanjiro still, even though, you know, I think we're kind of overpowering the Sharingan if you guys think that, hey, he has the Sharingan, things are gonna change here, because not really. See, Tanjiro has the Sharingan and he can perceive these things, but just imagine somebody shoots at you with a gun. Like, imagine you're watching the bullet come at you in slow motion, your body still can't react to it. And that's the thing with Tanjiro. So the encounter between the demon, Tanjiro is just a bit more aware of the situation and would be able to dodge the demon's attack slightly easier. However, his body just can't keep up with what he wants to do. So unfortunately, the encounter would still go down just like in the original. And when he meets Urakadeka, I don't know, whatever the teacher's name is, the old guy, he ends up pretty much just deciding that he needs to like learn how to control this ability. So now Tanjiro not only has the cool ability of being able to smell things like he does, but now also he can see things clearly. So Tanjiro, even though he's going to have that line, the thread that tells him when to cut, he's also, because of the fact that he has the Sharingan, is going to be having access to the ability to like realize and see clearly when he needs to strike and the slightest twitches in his opponent's movements to help him combat against demons and stuff like that. Now, this will definitely help him when it comes to the traps and stuff when he's going down the mountain during his first training session. So going down the mountain, I will say, is the first place where things seem a lot easier for Tanjiro. Tanjiro doesn't struggle as much, but at the end of all this, Tanjiro is beat because he just had to activate his Sharingan, and right now he currently sucks at using it. He has a 1 Tomoe in one eye and a 2 Tomoe in the other. And Urakadaki or something like that, whatever his name is having a bit of a like strange time training Tanjiro, because while Tanjiro is like cool, he's also like Tanjiro is weak, not cool, but is, as long as like, even though Tanjiro is slightly weak in some departments, Tanjiro is also a prodigy in others because he's so good at like dodging and reading his movements of his opponents. So the training between himself and Urakadaki would go a whole lot easier than in canon. Not to mention that when Tanjiro would first end up encountering the little like the twins, like Sabito and that other girl that was with Tanjiro during like his training, where he like imagined seeing them, what would pretty much end up happening during that session would be that at first Tanjiro would see them, and then one day he activates his Sharingan and realizes that they're not like physically there, and Tanjiro would question them on that, and they ultimately end up revealing to him this time, instead of him like never finding out, that Sabito and that girl were never real. Like they were real, but they're like spirits, you know what I mean? So instead, Tanjiro this time around would tell Urakadaki about that, and what we would pretty much end up getting down to is Tanjiro finding himself in the presence of final selection. Tanjiro would be in the presence of all these demons, and Tanjiro, looking up towards the mountain, would just think to himself that it's now or never. So many months and 2 entire years of training led Tanjiro to actually gaining a full control over his Sharingan, 3 Tomoe in each eye respectively, and Tanjiro is an absolute prodigy like sword master. Y'all know that thing that like the demon slayers have where it's like the transparent world? Yeah, Tanjiro basically has access to that way earlier on than in canon, due to the fact that he has the ability of something like a Sharingan. Like a Sharingan slightly increases your stats just a bit, and your perception is just so broken. Like, and not to mention, I haven't even told y'all about the one thing that the Sharingan also gives you access to: Genjutsu. Tanjiro can place these demons under Genjutsu. Think about how broken that is. This demon is thinking that it's attacking Tanjiro, but really it's fighting thin air. That's the most broken ability that Tanjiro currently has access to: Genjutsu. Now, is Tanjiro going to be having access to chakra, like in the sense of like fire style, lightning style? No, he's not. But he does have access to Genjutsu and enhanced perception, so that's a plus. Plus later, he's also going to be having access to abilities such as the Mangekyo, but I don't know when I'm gonna add that, but I probably will towards the end, like towards like the battle with Muzan, just to like really have Tanjiro really like crush that boy under his feet, you know what I mean? But regardless, continuing forward with the story, I was about to say Naruto, no, but Tanjiro making his way through the forest would pretty much just go in there and pretty much just like destroy each and every single demon that he encounters along his way. I mean, Tanjiro would quite literally destroy them like I do my meals. Speaking of meals, your boy is craving some McDonald's so bad right now. I don't even think y'all understand how much I'm craving McDonald's right now. Like, it's terrifying. Like, I just got back from the gym and I know I shouldn't eat it, but I'm probably gonna go eat it. But that's not the point. Continuing forward with the story, Tanjiro obliterates a bunch of demons, yada yada yada. He eventually encounters a kid, and this kid would be about to get killed by some weird demon art, blood bending, like weird fat demon with a thick neck, right? The Thickums, you know, Big Chungus himself. So he encounters him, and Tanjiro, seeing this massive demon in front of him, would actually finally feel fear for the first time since training with the Rikidaki. So what would pretty much end up going down here is that Tanjiro first would try to face off against this demon. And even though he would be scared, he would do it because he's a man. And sometimes you gotta do what you don't wanna do, right? Like, for example, I didn't feel like recording this video at all, but I'm still doing it. So continuing forward, Tanjiro would slash at one of the demon's arms and realizes that the demon is like, he seems just as weak to Tanjiro as all the other weak ones. So you know what Tanjiro would do? Tanjiro grabs his Nichiren blade and would proceed to cut down this dumb, fat little demon thing, right? And he cuts it down to oblivion. And I also want to add one more thing. When the demon would finally like begin having its own like sad little backstory moment, Tanjiro don't even let it happen. Like Tanjiro straight just stabs the demon in the head and then just runs away. Like he proceeds to just clear all the rest of the demons. And then when final selection is over and that one rude guy with like the gun thing, Majigger, when he's like mean to like those two girls that are there, Tanjiro pulls up on him and would be like, yo, take your hand off her. Sharingan active, placing a genjutsu on him, showing him exactly what would happen if he messes with her again, which would pretty much just be him grabbing his wrist and like breaking it pretty hard. And I know that you guys are probably like, whoa, that's not in Tanjiro's character. Like, he wouldn't do that. I think he would, because he doesn't want to hurt people, you know, so he would rather show him what would happen if he truly doesn't stop. Tanjiro this time around has no problem dealing with demons, and he's a lot more confident this time due to the fact that he got a little bit more praise, and Tanjiro was told that if he like hurries up, he can save Nezuko 2 times as fast. With those eyes, who knows, maybe 3 times. So Tanjiro was very much so having a little bit of a character change, just because the original Tanjiro is just too nice for me. So I am going to be changing him and taking the liberty of doing that myself, considering I like more like badass, ruthless characters than the ones that are nice and are like, here, let me help you with that. You know what I mean? So that's just my personal taste. But continuing forward with the story, Tanjiro finally ends up making his way back to Rikidaki, ends up getting his Nichiren blade, and this time around, it's still a black blade. Why is it still a black blade? Because once you go black, you never go back. Anyways, continuing forward with the story, Tanjiro ends up taking Nezuko, and after finally having finished with all this other stuff, Tanjiro ends up having a just delicious meal and then just leaving. The next morning, he just straight dips and he makes his way towards a nearby town where a bunch of girls have been disappearing. That same day, Tanjiro, with the help of some random guy, the guy that we get in the anime, like the little old guy that like his girlfriend was taken away and stuff like that. Like me personally, I would never let my girl get taken, but that's just me. Like me personally, I'm folding that demon, like, but I'm just built different, you know? So, you know, I guess we can't compare each other. Nah, for real though, I would straight get slaughtered in an instant. No, but Demon Slayer Xehther wouldn't though. Go check that video out. I made a what if Xehther was in Demon Slayer. Trust me, like it's super cool. I didn't replace Tanjiro, I just added myself as a character to the story. So you guys are probably gonna love it. Anyways though, continuing forward with the story, like I keep having a lot of tangents this video. Guys, in the comments down below, let me know if you guys enjoy these tangents or if I should just shut up and continue this story. Let me know. Anyways though, continuing forward with the story, Tanjiro would finally end up encountering the demon, right? And as soon as the demon would make life hard for Tanjiro, like he can't cut its head off because he's going into the water, like Tanjiro just honestly has enough of this demon stuff, you know what I mean? So the next time that it pops its head up like a little whack-a-mole thing, Tanjiro places him under a genjutsu, making him think that he went into the water when he still hadn't, and Tanjiro straight just bam, he cuts his head off. Then another demon starts screeching and like gritting its teeth, and Tanjiro gets annoyed by it, placing that one under Genjutsu Slash. And then the final one, Tanjiro would place him under a Genjutsu so powerful, making him pretty much see what ended up happening between him and Muzan, and how Muzan told him like, shh, don't ever tell anybody because I'm watching. The demon then ends up exploding because of the fact that like the information was like compromised, and Tanjiro would be shocked that that was the one that guy right there was the one responsible for the death of his entire family. Tanjiro grits his teeth dang near just as hard as those other demons that were doing it, and then through a fit of rage, he would pretty much end up just making his way out of there, like realizing that that guy, like not only did he destroy his sister's life by making her a demon and his siblings' life, but he even destroyed this guy's life. Like this guy didn't even want to become a demon, and now the job was done and he's dead. So like Tanjiro just feels terrible. And Tanjiro's on like his revenge time, you know what I mean? Like Tanjiro's on his revenge arc right now. So he makes his way towards another house because his crow told him to, and he would make his way there. Along the path, Tanjiro ends up running into Zenitsu, one of the people he noticed during final selection. And once he sees him, Zenitsu would like begin like falling down at Tanjiro's knees, being like, dude, please tell this girl to marry me. And Tanjiro straight kicks him away and would be like, yo, chill out, like leave this girl alone, bro. Like you have charisma, you know what I mean? And Zenitsu would be like, what's that? Tanjiro would just be like, never mind. And then like he would turn to Yaw, he would break the fourth wall and be like, this man has the craziest riz. But no, continuing forward, they finally make their way towards the house, and once they're there, just like in the original, Tanjiro would make his way through that house, defeat one random demon, before then finally finding himself face to face with a demon that can like change the room and stuff like that. Zenitsu, just like in canon, would absolutely obliterate his own demon that he faces off using thunder breathing first form, clap, I don't know, whatever his first form is called, right? And then Tanjiro, using his newfound Sharingan abilities, would be able to just pretty much blitz in there. And even though this demon was like turning the room all over the place, Tanjiro still, even though he wasn't stepping on the pages, because Tanjiro, I think that part in the anime was a nice little added bonus. So I'm going to keep that the same and just say that Tanjiro like would be able to avoid the switching of rooms and would get comfortable to it much faster due to the fact that he has a Sharingan, and every time that he looks at the demon, he can see like the slightest twitch in its muscle telling him that he's about to switch the room. So Tanjiro would be able to move around through the room a lot easier, ultimately blitzing him and bang straight shling, like just cutting the demon's head clean off of its shoulders. The demon would be in just a moment of desperation, as from here he would have his final seconds on Earth and would realize that Tanjiro was just a good person. After this, Tanjiro would make his way outside only to see Zenitsu currently getting beat down by Zenitsu. And Tanjiro would ask him what in the world he thinks he's doing. And Tanjiro and Inosuke would be like, hey, you're the guy with the demon in the box, aren't you? And from here, you know, Tanjiro would look at him and straight bam, headshot to the head with his own head, you know what I mean? Inosuke passes out, and then Zenitsu could finally ask Tanjiro what he's been waiting for this whole time. Tanjiro, why are you traveling with the demon? Jumping back into the story, Tanjiro turns towards Inosuke and smiles at him, saying that it's his sister. And Zenitsu would look at him and say, what? You're traveling with a girl and you didn't tell me? Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And Zenitsu's just popping off like you guys would expect. But ultimately, Tanjiro says, of course I didn't tell you. Because first of all, nobody exactly wants to tell another demon slayer that they're traveling with a demon. And number two, the main reason, you are a little weird when it comes to girls. Sorry about that, Zenitsu. And Zenitsu just looks at him and says, how dare you? You know, I'm so glad that I got beat up for this girl. You know, I'll do it again too. And then, you know, Tanjiro laughs, and then Inosuke wakes back up and he's like, wait, I'll fight you again, you know? And he gets up and he's all drowsy, and Tanjiro looks at him and says, dude, chill out. From here, Inosuke would just look at Tanjiro, and, you know, he realizes that Tanjiro has these weird eyes, right? And Tanjiro would ask Inosuke what in the world his deal is. Inosuke says that he's a demon slayer just like him. However, he's not really official. He just does it because he does it. And, you know, Tanjiro would just look at him and say, well, I mean, you're more than welcome to join us, like, if you want. We're probably going to get a mission sometime soon. Inevitably, a crow would end up flying on top, and it would tell them that they have to go to Mount Natagumo, right? And so all three of them would begin basically making their way there. And on the way, Tanjiro would ask Zenitsu, hey, so quick question. What does your breathing style consist of? And Zenitsu looks at Tanjiro and he would say, oh, I use thunder breathing. And Tanjiro would say, that's interesting. Can you perform an attack for me? Zenitsu would get shy before then saying that he really only knows one form. And, Tanjiro would be like, seriously, like just one? And Zenitsu would get like super shy and would say like, he's too shy to perform it right now. And Tanjiro would ultimately say like, it's fine, like he can just show him some other time. But ultimately, he turns towards Inosuke and asks him what his deal is, like what breathing style does he use? And Inosuke's like, I use beast breathing. As Tanjiro would look at him and say, perform it. And Inosuke would say, gladly. As from here, he goes through all of his forms, and Tanjiro would have been watching him with precise certainty of knowing that he's about to copy this man's whole flow word for word, you know what I mean? And so Tanjiro then looks at Inosuke and says, so like this, as he copies some of the breathing forms that Inosuke uses, not all of them, considering that Inosuke's body, Tanjiro can only copy so much, you know what I mean? Like Inosuke's breathing styles has like some techniques where he dislocates his bodies and stuff like that for his weird movements. And that's the reason that Inosuke can do so much of the crazy things that he does. So Tanjiro can't copy those ones, he'd have to like work on that. But ultimately, it's just going to be a little bit harder for him to learn those ones. But for now, Tanjiro pretty much gets the basics of beast breathing down, and it would actually be very interesting. They make their way towards this house where this lady would tell them that they're more than free and welcome to stay, and they would get some rest for the first time in like who even knows how long. Ultimately though, they would finally make their way towards Mount Natagumo, and once they're there, they would end up meeting up with some random like demon slayer called Murata, who pretty much ends up telling them that they should get lost, like this place is terrible, demons are all over the place. And simultaneously, Giyu and Shinobu would actually both be sent to investigate. Now, Tanjiro and Inosuke, they're in there. Zenitsu, he's a little scared, so he doesn't go in there, but ultimately he would still get bitten by the spider, and he still ultimately ends up defeating that demon. As for Tanjiro and Inosuke, if I do remember correctly, which I'm pretty sure I do, Tanjiro and Inosuke would both actually get pressed by some spider demon, like the really big and buff one. And while they're pretty much getting like encountering this guy, Tanjiro and Inosuke would both fight against this guy, right? Now, Tanjiro and Inosuke would both be linked like simultaneously, and they would both be fighting in the beast breathing style. Tanjiro landing combination attacks with Inosuke being completely caught off guard and just shocked at the fact that Tanjiro can copy his moves. Like, Tanjiro hadn't displayed this ability, and Inosuke would actually be getting angry, but ultimately, because both of them would be facing off against this dude with simultaneous perfect teamwork, since Tanjiro can use his Sharingan and can just track this dude's movements, they would both easily be able to get his blind spot and just his head comes off. So, rest in peace! But ultimately after that, what would end up going down is that Tanjiro and Inosuke would end up encountering the mother spider demon. And as this is all happening, Tanjiro would just, here, you know what? I'm about to spare you your life. As from here, he just like cuts her head off and says that he gave her a graceful death. Like, it was painless, you know what I mean? Like, almost. Well, a little bit of pain, but it was so quick that you didn't even feel it, you know what I mean? But ultimately, what would happen after this is that we would finally end up having the encounter between Tanjiro versus Rui. However, this time around, Tanjiro wouldn't encounter Rui alone, and so he and Inosuke would both actually be there simultaneously. Tanjiro would ask him what his deal is and what powers he's gonna pull out of his ass. As from here, Rui would then end up using his spiderweb demon art, and Tanjiro would just kind of actually get caught off guard a couple of times, ultimately being able to use his sun breathing like form to completely catch Rui off guard and cause Rui to be completely stunned. I mean, he never expected somebody like Tanjiro to be capable of doing something like this, and Inosuke would just be watching in complete awe and shock, considering that if Inosuke would have fought Rui, I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure that Inosuke couldn't have beat him. Like, I don't think that Inosuke would have done half as good as Tanjiro. So Ultimately, I am going to be saying that Tanjiro catches this dub, and eventually when Giyu and Shinobu would arrive, they end up arriving to the death of all the demons that were there, and Tanjiro and Inosuke would both be fine. Zenitsu would be the only one that really needs healing, and Shinobu would actually get caught by Giyu, who would be the one responsible for stopping her from pursuing to kill, Nezuko. And not only that, but Tanjiro would tell her that if she even tries to lay a hand on him again, on his sister, that he will personally make sure that he decapitates her head from her body. And she would be like, is that a threat? And Tanjiro says it's not a threat, it's a promise. As from here, they end up making their way back towards where the Demon Slayer Corps is at. Inosuke gets accepted formally, and then we have the rehabilitation training arc in which Nezuko and Tanjiro get tested, and Tanjiro gets very angry this time at Sanemi, right? And he's just not having it, like when he grabs his sister and starts stabbing her, Tanjiro straight blitzes over there, Sharingan active, and clashes with Sanemi. They both have their swords, and Sanemi's completely caught off guard because Tanjiro is keeping up blow for blow with Sanemi, and Sanemi's just he's like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Because Tanjiro would have actually ended up on the time that they had to make their way over towards the direction of the Demon Slayer Corps, would have had interaction with Giyu, and Giyu would have shown him his own little attacks, how he performs his, even though he knows the attacks. Tanjiro just wants to see Giyu's attacks and the way he fights and the movements and all that stuff. And Tanjiro would have copied some elements of him using a Sharingan, and ultimately once they would end up clashing and Sanemi would be caught off guard, Sanemi would have his head cut off and he would just die. Or so what would happen in a Genjutsu, because that's exactly what Tanjiro would use, and he would have also used a Genjutsu on all the Hashira, letting them know what would happen if they ever lay a hand on his Nezuko. And so Sanemi would back up and say that he was just testing her. As from here, Tanjiro would say that I'm going to test you if you don't back up. And from here, Sanemi would just grit his teeth, and then the Demon Slayer master person would be like, that's enough, you know what I mean? And so ultimately what would pretty much end up going down is that they would end up having a little bit of a rehabilitation training, and then they all, well, with the exception of Tanjiro, of course, because he already knows full concentration breathing, something that he would have copied off of his trainer, Irukadaki, right? He would have copied that off of him, and so Tanjiro would already be blessed with that knowledge. He would be able to actually end up helping them, and thus would begin the Mugen Train arc, in which during this time, Tanjiro actually would end up talking to multiple of the Hashiras and asking them to perform their own styles of breathing. The only one who would actually be doing anything or showing Tanjiro something with enthusiasm would be Kyojuro, who would be enthusiastic about it, kind of, but in a mean way, kind of, because we all know how he was at the beginning, Rengoku was going a little crazy, but ultimately the Mugen Train arc would start. They all fall asleep. Tanjiro has to kill himself a bunch of times to wake up, but ultimately he would still end up defeating the demon just like in canon, and this is when we would finally get to the juicy stuff, right? Because Rengoku, he's fighting Akaza just like in the original, and they're going crazy. They're going blow for blow. I mean, the flames are going crazy. Akaza's using his taijutsu martial art, and bro, Akaza is one of the coolest demons in Demon Slayer. He goes off. But ultimately, Rengoku would still end up getting pierced right through the stomach, and Tanjiro would literally be making his way back towards there right as we speak. He just finished defeating the demon, and Tanjiro was about to make it back, and he was about to help Rengoku defeat Akaza. But it would be at this moment that Akaza would pierce Rengoku and turn him into a donut, right? As Tanjiro would just get there at the last if Tanjiro would have been 5 seconds sooner, he could have saved them, but he wasn't. And now Rengoku's gonna die, and Akaza would offer him a position as a demon, and Tanjiro's eyes would just switch patterns as the Mangekyo swirl would form, and Tanjiro, through rage, would just he just loses it, bro. Honestly, his eyes end up having Amaterasu flames come out of them, and Akaza and Rengoku, mind you, because Tanjiro couldn't control it, would end up burning both of them alive. Rengoku screaming out in pain and ultimately saying it's not his fault, but Akaza would burn away to ashes and nothing of him would be left. So would be the case with Rengoku. ultimately Zenitsu and Inosuke would arrive, and they both see what happened, and Inosuke would say not to say anything about this. Tanjiro saying he feels terrible about what he did, but Inosuke ultimately saying that he was gonna die regardless, so he shouldn't feel shame or guilt. And so Tanjiro kind of copes with it in that way by thinking that, he was gonna die either way, but ultimately Tanjiro would make his way towards Shunjiro and Senjuro, the place where Rengoku used to live at, and ultimately give his condolences for the death of Rengoku, right? But after this would happen, we would then get the Entertainment District arc once Tanjiro would make his way back towards the Demon Slayer course, right? And once he's there, we end up pretty much just getting the whole little arc that goes down, right? The battle between Tanjiro Kamado and Nezuko versus Shinrei Demon, right? They end up taking him out. And ultimately after this, Tengen Uzui, he pretty much ends up trying to take Aoi and Naho. And then once that ends up happening, Tengen pretty much just ends up convincing both Inosuke and Zenitsu as well as Tanjiro that, they should go on a mission with him. They dress up as girls, yada, yada, yada. Tanjiro, one main thing that I definitely need to cover is that Tanjiro would have actually ended up copying one of Tengen's fighting styles through this trip. Like before he went, Tanjiro said that all he needed him to do was to show him his breathing style. So now Tanjiro has copied sound breathing, beast breathing, and also thunder breathing, which he would have completely copied off of Zenitsu when he caught Zenitsu off guard, and he would pretty much tell Zenitsu to show him his style. Zenitsu would show it to him, and now Tanjiro has access to flame, lightning, beast, and water, as well as sound breathing. Tanjiro is putting his Sharingan ability to very, very good use, and it's a phenomenal thing. Ultimately, what would happen in the original between Zenitsu discovering Warabahime or something like that, being a demon and all that stuff, would still go down, and then Zenitsu would go missing and all that. But ultimately, after all this would go down, Inosuke would find the underground chamber, and then finally the little battle between the Demon Slayers versus Daki and Gyutaro would start. During this battle, I wish I could sit here and say, oh, it's just such a cool battle, Tengen goes crazy, and Gyutaro and him have their same battle in Canada, but no, I'm sorry, y'all. There's just no way. I mean, come on, bro. Tanjiro now has access to thunder breathing, and he copied Zenitsu, who, if I'm being completely honest, Tanjiro with total concentration breathing, the Sharingan, and the skill of a Hashira, because he's been copying their movements for a while, would be able to make Zenitsu's own first form breathing even more powerful than it is in the original, leading to Tanjiro simply just pretty much saying, thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap and flash, blitzing both Daki and Gyutaro in an instant, decapitating them both simultaneously. He would have moved that fast, bro. That fast he would have moved. And the reason he was able to catch them off guard simultaneously was because he would have placed both of them under a Genjutsu, which causes them each to think that Tanjiro still hadn't blitzed in and tried to attack. But by the time that they did realize, their heads were already off of their bodies, and then they both just died. And yeah, Nezuko doesn't even have to go full demon mode this time, and she doesn't even end up having to heal all the people that were there. So they just make their way back towards the Demon Slayer core, and because of this, we actually have Tengen not retiring, but ultimately the upper ranks would still end up meeting up and all that stuff, just like they do in the original, and all the Demon Slayers would return back towards where they're normally at. From here, we end up pretty much just having the beginning to the Swordsmith village arc, and y'all, we're seriously getting to a point in this story where it's not funny how easy it is for Tanjiro. Brothers, let me keep it a buck right now. With the abilities that Tanjiro has right now, he could one-shot Muzan. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Sharingan Tanjiro. Think about that. He's not even gonna one-shot him using anything. He could one-shot him using a Materasu. It's that simple. A Materasu. Oh, what's Muzan gonna do? Nothing. It's an eternal flame that never dies. Muzan is gonna die. And that goes to any other demon that would try to step into Tanjiro and them. So the things that would happen in the Swordsmith Village Arch would all go like canon. Literally everything and all of it that you guys could think about would be just like literally the same. But any time that a demon pops up in this arc and Tanjiro would be the one facing these demons, just pretty much imagine that Tanjiro just straight one-shots. Like Yoko, the demon, the one that ended up bodying Muichiro, don't even get, like ribcage Susanoo, the hand of the ribcage, it would be a black Susanoo that Tanjiro has, and it would just crush the demon in its hand, causing the demon to just regenerate. But then Tanjiro comes in and straight slash to the neck. The demon's dead, and it's just crazy. Just like in canon, Nezuko goes on to conquer the sun, and you know, from here we would have the moment in which Muzan prepares to hunt for Nezuko, because he ends up finding out that, oh wow, you know, like she can survive in the sun, like what, you know what I mean? Like, so then after this we end up having the Hashira training arc. You know, all the demon slayers train with the Hashira, but unlike in canon, Tanjiro would pretty much be made the pillar of, like, he would be made a Hashira, but he wouldn't be like the sound pillar, the flame pillar, none of that. Like, he would just be like the all around Hashira. We're talking he ends up gaining access to all of their breathing styles, every single one of them, and he ends up pretty much mastering his Sharingan even further than you guys would even ever imagine. So by the time that we would get to the final battle arc, the Infinity Castle, just think about it like this. Everybody else who had their battles in this version, they all go down just like in canon. Tanjiro, however, since Akaza is already dead, he doesn't have to face off against him, so he's able to feel free and just run in there and be able to face off against whoever he wants. Meaning, he could help out Inosuke and, what was that girl's name? Because I know that Inosuke didn't fight the demon Doma. It was also Shinobu, right? Yeah, it was Shinobu. So Tanjiro would be able to assist them, and Shinobu doesn't die, and then he just like runs in there, and eventually he would finally end up seeing Muzan, the Demon King, right? And when he sees him, like, Tanjiro just has like a little talk with him, and Muzan says he must be Tanjiro, the one he's heard so much about. And Tanjiro just looks at him and says, yeah, and he must be Muzan Kibutsuji, the one responsible for the death of his family. And Muzan says, oh, I don't even remember them, right? Tanjiro gets mad, and Tanjiro just says to him that no one will ever remember him after this embarrassing defeat. And Muzan laughs in Tanjiro's face, like he genuinely thinks that Tanjiro can't do a thing, that Tanjiro's weak, that Tanjiro just can't keep up. But like, y'all, Tanjiro's not playing no games. Tanjiro is like angry. So he transforms into a gigantic Susanoo state, and Muzan would get completely shook. He's like, what in the, like, bro, what? You know, like, Yoriichi was basically nothing compared to Tanjiro now. And just this gigantic Amaterasu blade, just like an Amaterasu covered Susanoo blade would just cut Muzan in half. And a gigantic, like, mountain-sized explosion would happen as all the rest of the Demon Slayers would watch this all go on, and they're just shook. Nezuko would still return to being a human just like in canon, and then Tanjiro would say that was easy, what's next? As that, ladies and gentlemen, would conclude what if Tanjiro had the Sharingan. Now think about it this way, these what ifs are super fun to make. I mean, the Demon Slayer ones are just like they're phenomenal, they're great. I love it. It's a breath of fresh air for me. I've literally covered Naruto and My Hero for so long that when I cover anything else, it just feels reinvigorating, like wow, I can finally cover something that isn't the same 3 series, you know what I mean? But ultimately, along with that also comes the downside of the Demon Slayer verse. Although it's awesome, the Demon Slayer verse is super weak. And Muzan, in comparison to a bunch of other anime villains, is also super weak. So whenever we're going to give Tanjiro these new abilities, he's always going to one-shot Muzan towards the end. Unless it's like one of those abilities where it's like cool and it's like, oh wow, it does help Tanjiro, but it doesn't change anything, then maybe Tanjiro might die earlier. So it's like, it's either going to be a bad ending for Tanjiro or a great ending for Tanjiro. Like, there is quite literally no in-betweens with this. So yeah, that concludes What If Tanjiro Had the Sharingan. Peace.